Unfortunately, my marriage did not work out. Because of his alcoholism, my ex-husband was quite volatile and would resort to physical force on occasion. I felt completely defenseless and terrified every time this occurred. For the sake of my children, I decided to face the severe anguish. I was aware that their lives would be severely impacted by the divorce. Although it was challenging, I made an effort to remain optimistic and face my children. I began to question my marriage's validity once my son left for college. I came to the realization that I could no longer endure the agony. I wanted to stop suffering, so I ended the marriage. Tough decision, but I knew it was right. As I reflected on this marriage, I realized that I was partially to fault. Plus, I picked up a ton of knowledge that has made me a better, more self-reliant person overall. After my divorce, I packed up and left my old house. It was inexpensive, but the old apartment I discovered needed some redecorating. Opted to undertake the improvements on my own due to my limited budget. Aside from improving the aesthetics of my new house, it would also provide me with a satisfying sense of completion. I bought some inexpensive paint. Back then, rules weren't nearly as stringent, and a lot of paints contained dangerous amounts of chemicals. Because I lacked the funds to purchase more costly paints, I painted while knowing that it would affect my health. I had another challenge to overcome besides decorating. Even after 3 years, I still have to take pills for the discomfort after my back surgery. My agony has rendered me reliant on painkillers, despite my knowledge that their prolonged usage can harm my health. I am attempting to discover alternative methods of pain relief, like yoga and massage, but I am aware that it will require patience and time. My life has been an attempt to reflect my faith as a devoted Christian. It is my sincere wish that I will have an impact on my loved ones. I trust that God will keep my loved ones safe because He is my top priority. I had faith in God's ability to save my marriage, but it didn't work out. When I needed it most, it was difficult to receive assistance. I had hoped for the encouragement and assistance of people close to me, but alas, I found none. I was taken aback and disappointed by this. Worked late every day since I wanted to move into my new home early and was living with a friend at the time. It took a long time and a lot of hassle to complete the renovation. I painstakingly blended many paint colors to create a more unified appearance for the furniture, which had varying textures and hues. On one occasion, I experienced backache following a 7-hour workday. I was really exhausted from taking so many medicines, which were necessary for pain relief. A vacation seemed necessary. I was so exhausted that I didn't even notice how stinky the place was. I dozed off after settling onto the couch. It took an unknown amount of time, but I could feel my breathing becoming increasingly labored. I struggled to raise myself, but my body just wouldn't budge. I failed to take any precautions despite my knowledge that the air in the room might be toxic. Even when I yelled, nobody paid attention. I thought I was slipping away from this reality. Ascending from my physical form, my spirit was departing from my body. There was a little quivering with emotion. I could make out details in every part of the room as my field of vision expanded. I felt a lovely sensation when I was getting up. My lifeless form lay on the floor. It was as if I were a bystander. Now that my thoughts were crystal clear, my vision appeared clearer, but I still didn't know what was happening. It was as if I were dreaming, but there was a world of difference between the two. My fear started to build. I was worried that this condition would last forever. My appearance in a dark room came abruptly. I felt an unexplainable terror when I entered the black area. Without knowing the response I may expect, I was afraid to move. To make matters worse, I had the unsettling sensation that there were monsters of some type lurking about, ready to pounce. As if they could sense my presence, the creature's movements were becoming increasingly rapid. For some reason, Even in the pitch black, I could make out their features. They resembled humans to a certain extent, but were somewhat taller. Their complexion appeared drab and leathery. Amidst this terror, my emotions became abnormally restless. I was unsure of their intentions, but I could sense their malevolence. It was as if they were going to take me into an infinite pit of blackness. Flash of light flashed before my eyes. Despite its intensity, the light's comforting warmth and hopeful aura were palpable. As the light intensified, my vision became increasingly impaired. Subsequently, I was pulled from the shadows. A powerful force was pushing me ahead. Over time, the shadows faded. I felt like I was transported to an entirely new realm. Here, the air was pleasant and tranquil, and everything was sunny and bright. No longer was the musty odor lingering in the air. The room was amazing. I felt out of place because I had been cloaked in darkness only a few moments before. Looking ahead, I could make out a spectacular structure with what seemed like its emblem. A golden ball perched on it. As soon as the door swung open, a man clad in a lengthy white robe stepped out. Approached me, a book cradled in his palm. The book's cover was crafted from thick leather, giving it an antique appearance. On it were etched some peculiar designs and symbols. I felt an enigmatic force radiating from the book as I studied it, and I couldn't help but wonder what it contained. Gentle expression graced the face of the man clad in the white robe. I felt at home the second he tapped me on the shoulder. It was as if I'd been here before. As if it were my permanent residence, this place welcomed me with open arms. I had faith that this place would provide me with safety and solace regardless of the circumstances. Long-robed figure greeted them with a welcome home. I felt out of place, so I said, "Where is this place? Tell me my name. Exactly how did I end up in this situation?" "This is not your first residence here," the man said. "It is your intention to carry out your task here. This is a very special place that transcends anything you have ever known," he shared with me. "A lot of people call this spot heaven. What is my mission?" I inquired of him. With a smirk on his face, he responded, "You will know when you go back." "Go back? Can't I stay?" I asked. "You are free to remain if you so desire," he explained. "Although this is a fantastical realm, you will be unable to go back to your previous existence if you decide to remain. Whatever decision you choose, I will honor it. I cannot make the choice for you." "What choice should I make?" I inquired of him. "My advice is that you pay attention to your intuition," he said. "Do you have the strength to part with your loved ones?" "My son is the one and only person who comes to mind whenever I consider my family. My son brings so much worry into my heart. How he will manage when he abandons me is beyond my comprehension. Even he needs help taking care of himself. Therefore, he certainly isn't qualified to be his guardian." I had reservations about my son living with him. Back I went. I was back on the couch when I opened my eyes again. All around me, a strong odor wafted. I got to my feet, but I stumbled back into the sofa. Even the most basic tasks became a struggle for me since I was so weak. I got to my feet and trudged frantically toward my room's entrance. I forcefully ripped open the door and entered the stairway. I blacked out and passed out on the floor all of a sudden. It felt like I had completely lost control of my body and all of my strength. For sure, I needed assistance. With my eyes closed, I fervently prayed for divine intervention. I was in a hospital bed when I regained consciousness. My neighbor had discovered me after I had been asleep for several hours. According to the doctor, serious repercussions may have ensued had I reached the hospital at a later time. I was quite appreciative to my neighbor when I heard this. I thought my prayers had been answered when I eventually learned anything. Our apartment was on the older side and had a relatively sparse population. My neighbor realized he had forgotten his wallet at home that morning on the way to work. He had to return home to retrieve his wallet, since he was afraid he couldn't use the metro without it. He heard me tumbling to the floor in the stairway as he was going to open the door. I was unconscious in the stairwell when he hurried up the stairs and discovered me. Before the ambulance came, he dialed the emergency number. Both my neighbor and God have my eternal gratitude for their assistance and for granting me the gift of life. I refrained from informing my son about it during that period because I wished to save him any anxiety and ensure that his education remained unaffected. God was with me the whole time, even though I was a single mother and life was tough. The fact that my son is now a father of 2 has brought me immense relief, even though it has been several years since this occurred. The moment my son became a father was etched in my memory. He had an air of self-assurance and maturity. Both he and I have much to be proud of. Life and the people in it are truly precious to me now. Through it all, I grew in my faith in God and in myself, especially when things got tough. Being alive fills me with joy and gratitude. God has been with me through all of my trials, albeit they have been numerous. I am pleased with my choices as well, even though it wasn't the greatest one at the moment. All of my choices contributed to my development, in my opinion. Currently, I cherish the moments spent with my loved ones. I was saved by God, as unbelievable as it seems. Even though we don't always see answers to our prayers, God is still real. God is acting in accordance with His perfect wisdom.